After winning 200 million, I quit my job and headed back home. At the station, I called my dad to pick me up. He asked why I was back. I jokingly said I got laid off and was unemployed, so I'd return to mooch off them. It was pouring rain, and I waited until evening, but he never showed up. I braved the rain and made it home alone. Just as I reached the door, I heard my sister-in-law complain, "In such a rush? It's pouring, and you're still getting the property transferred. Look at how drenched I am." My mom replied, "It's all for your good. Lucy lost her job. Do you want to give the house back to her?" My sister-in-law scoffed, "If she's back, let her rent a place. I'm not used to living with a sister-in-law." Standing at the door, I didn't know if I was cold from being soaked or just heartbroken. I couldn't stop trembling, water rolling down my cheeks to my lips. I licked my lips. It was salty. This rain tasted salty today. After standing there a long time, I finally knocked. In this house, my mom favored boys, my dad was always quiet, but my brother always doted on me. Surely, he wouldn't throw me out, right? My mom opened the door, her smile awkward. "Lucy's back." I nodded, stepping in and changing shoes. She began explaining, "The rain's heavy. Your dad couldn't leave. He thought he'd wait for it to lessen before heading to the station." "How'd you get back?" "Taxi?" "Yeah, got a cab." Changing my shoes, I noticed a few wet pairs nearby. Playing dumb, I asked, "You guys went out?" Seeing the shoes, she frowned but came up with an excuse. "We were at your sister-in-law's mom's before the rain. Just got back and sorted everything." I just responded with an "oh" and headed to my room with my luggage. The door opened and it was filled with stuff. Standing at the entrance, I turned to my mom. "Mom, what's going on?" She smirked awkwardly, looking uncomfortable. "There's too much stuff in the house, and you seldom come back to stay, so we thought we'd use it for storage." "What about my things?" She quickly opened the balcony door, showing me, "All here. Your sister-in-law packed them up for you." I looked at the messy bags on the balcony. "Is this your idea, or someone else's? I paid for this house. Do I not even get a room?" Mom lowered her head, feigning helplessness, while my sister-in-law loudly said from outside, "Lucy, just because you bought the house, you think you can kick me out? You're all like family. I'm the outsider." I was too tired to argue, so I pushed the study room door open. My brother was in there, gaming. "Bro, they've filled my room with junk. Where do I stay?" He took off his headphones, looking at me. "Give me a few minutes. Almost done here." I stood and waited as he finished his game, then he walked over. "Don't be mad. It's Mom and your sister-in-law. They always say the house is too full, so they put things in your room. How about this? You and your sister-in-law can stay in a hotel for a while, take our room." He continued, "So, how long are you back for this time? I've said it before, living so far away in L.A. isn't worth it. You should stay close to home, where family can look out for each other." I'd heard this plenty of times before. Normally, I'd say my degree didn't match any local jobs, and even if it did, the pay here wasn't great, so I'd just go back to L.A. But this time, I agreed. I'm thinking the same. I've been drifting outside long enough. Time to come back. I plan on staying, so having you stay in a hotel isn't realistic. Let Mom and the others clear a room for me to stay in." My brother was taken aback for a second. Then he said, "All right, let's have them clear it." As soon as he finished talking, my sister-in-law shouted, "Where can we put everything? This place is so cramped." Everyone stood there, unmoving. After a long standoff, my brother finally said, "If you won't clear it, I will." He was about to head inside when my mother grabbed him. "You don't even know how to clean it up." I wasn't bothered about the cleaning. "If it's not going to be cleared, give me the key to that apartment I bought before. Let me stay there." I held out my hand to my mom, but she didn't respond. I looked between her and my brother. "What's going on?" My brother, clearly uncomfortable, said, "Lucy, don't be mad. That apartment is occupied by your sister-in-law's brother. Moving there wouldn't be convenient." "Oh, there's still another. The one in Freedom Gardens. Give me the key." Everyone stayed silent, and finally my dad spoke in a weary voice. "Lucy, are you back just to demand the houses? Or showing off the ones you've bought?" I almost had to laugh. "Dad, is that what you think of me? I asked repeatedly where I'd stay, and you didn't say a word. Then when I sort it myself, you speak up to accuse me of showing off. Show me someone flaunting their 3 houses with nowhere to stay." Everyone looked annoyed, but no one said anything. I knew they wanted to drive Unemployed me away. I didn't want to squeeze in with them either, but since they weren't kind, I wouldn't be either. They wanted me gone, I'd do it properly. Does no one have anything to say? Want to kick me out? My parents and brother stayed quiet. My sister-in-law glared at me. Whoever heard of a sister-in-law in her 30s not married and living with her brother and sister-in-law? Occasionally, sure, but jobless, living here forever? Don't you know it's inappropriate? I chuckled, annoyed. "You don't get to speak on this. I'm asking my parents and brother." She looked affronted, and my brother frowned, saying, "Lucy, I tolerate you. She doesn't have to. Could you be polite?" I stared at him, grinning. "I have no issue with her. It's because you're quiet. Lucas, I bought 3 houses. One is your marital home, the other your brother-in-law's mattress. As a beneficiary, what are you playing at? 2. You think you can just give me back all 3 houses? Go live with your wife and parents." Lucas's face turned pale as I said this. He didn't even get a word out when my dad stood up from the couch, scolding me loudly. "Lucy, that's out of line." I ignored his yelling and calmly asked, "Let me ask you again, do I really have no place in any of those 3 houses?" "Yes, that came from my mom." I nodded and looked at them. "So, you're saying you're cutting ties with me, right?" They stayed silent, so I lowered my voice. "Fine, if that's how it is, then from today on, we're done. From now on, Lucy, have no parents or family." I grabbed my suitcase and walked out the door, booked a hotel and settled in for now. Called my lawyer friend to get some advice on getting those houses back, considering I paid for them in full but the titles weren't in my name. She asked if there were any agreements, written or spoken. I had said one house was for my parents to live in for their old age, but nothing else. She mentioned that house would be tough to reclaim completely. I asked if changing the name to mine wouldn't work. She assured me the title could be reverted back. I laid out the whole family drama to her and hired her to make sure I got all 3 properties back. Once I hung up, I felt empty, like a part of me had been ripped out. From high school graduation, working part-time jobs, to staying in LA after college, scrimping and saving, all to buy those 3 houses. It drained all my savings. Initially, I planned one for my parents' retirement, another for myself, and the last to rent out for income. That way, I could retire too someday. But my parents? One wasn't enough. Even if they'd given the one meant for them to Lucas, I wouldn't be this angry. They want all 3, throwing me out because I lost my job. I looked at my bank app showing a balance with 7 zeros trailing a 3. I laughed and cried at the same time. So what? I still have money. I could spend with ease for a lifetime and not run out. I washed up, had dinner at a restaurant, and got some rest. The next morning, I went straight to the Golden Harbor Villas sales office. It's the most expensive area in our city. Bought one for over $7 million, fully furnished. Moved in with my suitcase and hired a maid to manage daily chores. For half a month, I lived in peace. Then I got a call from my mom. The second I answered, she was screaming, "Lucy, have you lost your mind? Suing us?" I chuckled softly. "Ma'am, who are you?" "I'm suing Lucas for seizing the 3 houses I bought, all paid by me." "Lucy, you've gotten bold. Just because of a disagreement, you want to drag us to court? Fine, I'll sue you for being ungrateful. You really think saying we're done changes anything? Your brother says there's no such law. You're bound to care for us until you die." "Great, go ahead and sue. Whatever the court decides, I'll provide. I heard it's around a couple $100 a month. It's not a problem for me. And I can supply goods instead. I'll buy $500 worth of tampons if the law permits." "Go ahead, sue." My mom was livid, cussing me out on the phone. "You brat, just wait till your brother gets back and sees the legal notice, you'll get it. Let Lucas come over. I'm waiting." Hung up, and my neighbor came over with some fruit. She was a slightly older woman who looked familiar. "Hi, I'm your next door neighbor, Lily." I realized she's a news anchor from our city. "Hello, Lucy here. Please, come in." She waved off. "No, just here to say hi. Our classmates are gathering at my place. Hope it doesn't disturb you." I smiled. "No worries." She looked at me and suggested, "Hey, you're about our age, wanna join?" I thought an older relative moved in. I tried to decline, but her warm hospitality dragged me along. My maid was home, so I wasn't concerned. I was still in slippers when I went next door. At her place, many were already there. She introduced me as her neighbor, and everyone, being mature and friendly, started chatting and grilling. I hadn't expected that Lily was a classmate of my sister-in-law, Jane. She came with Lucas, and upon seeing me, dashed over. "Lucy, how do you find us here?" I stayed calm, watching her dramatics. Oblivious to our connection, Lily took hold of Jane, ready to introduce me. But Jane, too quick, told everyone, "Here's the one I vented about, my sister-in-law, not marrying at her age, unemployed, leeching off our parents. Sorry, didn't think she'd stalk us." People knew I was Lily's invited neighbor. Being neighbors meant I lived in the villa area. That didn't match Jane's description. Everyone glanced at each other, puzzled. Lily looked at me, asked, "You know them?" I smiled. "Small world. This is my brother and sister-in-law. Didn't realize you were classmates." Lily, laughing as host, chimed in, "Isn't it, Jane? Lucy's not following you. She's my neighbor." I figured we're all around the same age group and invited to grill with us. Lucas and Jane were shocked. What? She's your neighbor? No way. Lily wasn't sure how to continue, looking at me. So did Jane. Lucy, didn't you lose your job? Renting a villa? Not renting. I bought it. Hearing this, Jane burst into laughter. Impossible. You drained yourself buying those 3 properties. Got laid off. Where'd you get money to buy now? Dreaming up a villa after being kicked out. 3. I worked hard for over 10 years and bought 3 houses. You all know I emptied my savings, so you shamelessly took over the houses. As soon as you heard I quit my job, you couldn't wait to kick me out. No worries, I've hired a lawyer. I'll get those houses back. So you might want to buy your own houses soon. Don't blame me if the court orders you to move and you're left without a roof. As soon as I finished, the room was buzzing with whispers. Some even questioned Jane directly. Jane, didn't you say your in-laws bought those houses for you? And you always complain about how your sister-in-law is lazy and ugly, almost 40 and still unmarried, even jobless, and living off her parents. Shameful. You are. I chuckled. Wow, so that's how you twist the truth behind my back. It's fine. MS. William just called. She got the lawyer's letter. You'll all see it when you get home. It's someone else's class reunion, and we're over here making a scene. Not cool. I didn't bother arguing with them. I turned to Lily. Sorry for the trouble, Lily. I'll head out so you guys can enjoy. Come over to my place when you're free. I was about to leave when Jane grabbed me. Lucy, explain where the money for the villa came from. Did your mom give it to you? I glanced at her and then at Lucas. Only your husband has a mom, not me. With that, I pulled away and left Lily's house. Jane and Lucas followed but couldn't get in when I locked the door behind me. The maid I hired is named Coco, a recent college grad who's a bit shy. She seemed even more intimidated by the couple than I was. I smiled. Don't worry. Send me your ID over phone. I'm planning a trip. You can come along. Coco looked surprised. I just started working. I can't afford a trip. I laughed. I'll cover it all. Food, drinks, and travel. You just join me. Where are we going? I hesitated. I've worked so long and never had time or money for a vacation. I asked her, any place you want to visit? She said, I'd love to see a small town in the southwest. All right, that's where we'll go. We quickly booked tickets for the next day. She called her folks to tell them about the trip. They were worried I might be planning something shady. I couldn't help but laugh. She assured them it wasn't the case. To be fair, I'd only known her for 2 weeks. Asking her to travel could raise suspicions. Coco wasn't much of a talker, so I explained the trip was a spur-of-the-moment decision. Those 2 outside are my brother and sister-in-law. I won the lottery and quit my job. Her eyes lit up with envy but didn't ask how much I won. I continued, my parents prefer sons over daughters. When they heard I came back unemployed, they kicked me out. I had bought 3 small homes. But now, one's occupied by them, one's by my brother-in-law, and the third is empty. But I have nowhere to go. I thought I'd return with money, help them live well, laying back and enjoying life as a family. Who knew? I treated them as family, but they clearly didn't feel the same. After I finished, Coco said bluntly, family or not, if they don't appreciate you, sticking around just gives them more chances to hurt you. I laughed. You're right. So don't worry, I'm not some organ harvesting villain. Coco chuckled at that. Eventually, Jane and Lucas went back to Lily's for the reunion. I wouldn't have been able to face everyone. Their gathering ended by evening and everyone left in cars except Jane and Lucas, who walked away. After the party, Lily stopped by my place. I got Coco to make her a cup of coffee. She apologized for the awkwardness earlier, but it wasn't her fault. I should be apologizing to her. Who knew I'd run into Jane? But now that Jane and Lucas knew where I lived, they'd probably show up again. I warned Lily, my family might bother me. I'll notify the property managers and share their photos. They may try to drop your name. Lily paused before saying, don't worry, they won't be on my guest list. Thanks a lot. That night, Lucas must have told our parents. My mom called asking, Lucy, your brother says you bought a villa. When did you do that? Where'd the money come from? How is that your concern? With that, I ended the call and blocked her. As soon as I did, Lucas messaged me on phone. Lucy, you're becoming more disrespectful, even blocking our parents. I texted back, and you're at home mooching off them, squatting in my house. Give back my house, you leech. Lucas lost it and tried video calling me. I blocked him too. After blocking family, I sent their photos in the property management group chat, instructing, don't let these 4 in. The next morning, Coco and I flew to Spring City. Blocking those negative folks meant peace for 2 weeks. Coco shot a vlog and was editing it that night. Lucy, mind if you're in it? Nope, all good. She grinned and worked on the video. I took a quick nap and woke up to discover we'd gone viral. Comments flooded in with, "Dream boss. I'm quitting to be a maid. Ask your boss if they need a cook. Does your boss need a gardener?" Netizens kept the fun going. The account blew up with followers. She looked a bit uneasy and asked, "Lucy, what should we do?" I chuckled. "What do you mean, what should we do? This is great. Cash in on this good fortune. You run the account." She pursed her lips. "Then let's split the earnings. With the money I have, I wasn't planning on splitting anything with her, but we get along well, and she's a great cook." I was just a bit concerned. "You're not planning to quit your job, are you?" For some reason, she laughed at that, and so did I. "No way, unless you fire me." I grinned. "Then we should draw up a contract when we get back. The account earnings are yours, just don't quit." "I won't quit, but the main character of the videos is you, boss. You should take a share no matter what." "Fine, just don't quit." It was an unexpected success, and we were both thrilled. But things started getting attention later that night. Someone shared and criticized me online. They called me unfilial, claiming I cut off family and selfishly tried to take back a house I already had a villa. They said I was playing the role of a nice boss while really being cold-hearted. The internet loves drama. It was like going viral in the morning and crashing at night. The netizens jumped on it like hungry field mice. Neither Coco nor I were prepared for it, but I didn't worry much. "Lucy, what now?" she asked. She snapped me back to reality, her voice like a work call. "No worries, let's not respond yet. Let them have their moment." By the next day, a few accounts started defending me by sharing some facts. I looked through them, and they were my former colleagues. They vouched for my work ethic, saying I was super dedicated and could barely afford to rent a place over $1,000 in L.A. Each month, I saved my salary to buy a house back home for my parents. I'd even bought 3 properties, all in their names. The so-called taking back was just me reclaiming what's legally mine. This truth got drowned in the flood of comments. I spent my morning gathering all my financial records from all these years. I went live on Coco's account. The chat room got flooded with viewers. I shared everything from my college part-time jobs to the transactions for buying a house. Viewers were speechless. I addressed them. I resigned, joking with my dad that I'm unemployed and would go home to mooch. My parents got so scared they transferred the 3 properties to my brother that same day. When I got home, not even a single room was left for me. I was kicked out that very same day. You can listen to the recording. Some doubted the recording's credibility, suggesting I came prepared with it. I explained that I had the recording from when I called my dad to pick me up, and he never came. So, I ended up trudging home through the rain and overheard their conversation at the door. My sister-in-law complained about having to rush the deal, getting caught in the rain. My mom justified it as being in their interest because if I moved back jobless, would they return the houses? My sister-in-law even said she'd rather I rent a place because she didn't want to live with me. Oh, and one of the properties was an apartment I suggested I could move into, but my sister-in-law's brother was staying there. Why? Just because I'm a daughter. Why should my years of hard-earned money be given away for free? I would have done it because they're family, but they're not acting like it, so I'm just taking back what's mine. I told any girl in a similar situation to protect their money. Affection you didn't get as a kid can't be bought with money as an adult. Don't be as naive as I was, thinking spending money could buy family and love. All it brought me was disappointment. Someone asked about the villa in the comments. I smiled. Though I didn't want to flaunt it, at this point I didn't care. Just got lucky. Won it in a lottery ticket. I actually went home hoping to bring everyone together with the money, but they turned their backs on me because I was out of work, I said. After that, the comments were filled with astonished reactions. Some people even wrote things like awesome, awesome. This was karma at its finest. After the live, voices of disapproval came up in the family group chat. Lucy, you've gone too far, leaving your parents out in the cold just because you hit a jackpot? That kind of scheming mind in a young girl is unacceptable. This was my aunt talking. I replied in the chat, hey, auntie. If you're not scheming, then how about repaying the $100K you borrowed years ago? You're kind, so how about buying 3 houses for Uncle Doug? Why haven't you? The 3 properties I bought, and I can't even have a room. How does that make sense? Lucas then challenged me in the group. Why can't you even have a room? I threw the recording into the group chat. Look, by cutting ties with them, I'm cutting ties with a lot of you. I'm leaving this group as well. By the way, for those who owe me money, put it together and pay me within a month. Otherwise, I'll sue. What was lent will be returned down to the last penny. If anyone wants to defend them, you're welcome to take them into your homes and give me my properties back. Then I'll drop it. After a bunch of messages, I left the group. Coco and I were still vacationing, this time in Hawaii. Then, out of nowhere, my mom really went ahead and sued me for parental support. It was laughable since she wasn't even at the age for that yet. The court dismissed it. Meanwhile, the ruling on my lawsuit to reclaim the properties came through. All 3 houses were to be returned to me within a month. Lucas was delaying the transfer, so I had people show up at his office until he complied. My dad and mom, hiding this from Lucas and Jane, tried to see me at the villa complex. The security didn't let them in, so they actually kneeled at the entrance. The property manager found it problematic and messaged me. 5. I went out to see them. The old couple looked grim. My mom was about to start scolding me, as usual, but my dad stopped her. He looked at me and asked, "Lucy, since you're already at the door, aren't you gonna invite your parents in?" I let out a sarcastic laugh, feeling a bit amused. "No need, really. Just like there's no place for me in your home, there's no place for you in mine." My dad went silent. My mom asked through gritted teeth, "Is it that you don't want to see your brother happy?" I was a bit confused. "What do you mean, happy? Am I supposed to be his blood donor for life? Haven't I done enough all these years? What more do you want me to do to keep him happy?" I shot back fierily, and my mom flinched a bit. "If you care so much about him, you go sell your blood. Keep your favorite son happy and stop pestering me. Just the sight of you makes me sick. Lucy, we brought you into this world, raised you. How did we ever wrong you? Give birth to me? You had me just to serve Lucas. Wasn't I born to be Lucas's babysitter? As for raising me, I was wearing Lucas's hand-me-downs. You don't remember, do you? When I graduated high school and had to earn my own tuition. When I got laughed at for those old clothes and came crying to you. I remember it all. The minute I got some money, I wanted to take care of you all. But the second I said I lost my job, your first thought was to kick me out. And you dare talk about raising me? Have Lucas transfer the house titles pronto. Otherwise, I'll ruin his career. Same goes for Jane. I won't spare any of them. I hired some tattooed guys to shadow Lucas to and from work. They were just waiting for my word to get him fired. After about 2 weeks, Lucas couldn't handle it anymore. He was summoned by his boss and had to call me to transfer the property. I didn't show up, I had my lawyer do it. 3 houses were changed to my name. After the transfer, I learned that the school district house was occupied by my sister-in-law's parents, and the apartment by her brother. My birth parents valued my sister-in-law more than me. Of course, a daughter-in-law is a treasure to their son. And what am I? Just their servant. I was not polite about it. I had them forced out. When Lucas's brother-in-law and in-laws got kicked out, Jane and Lucas had a huge fight, ending in a divorce demand. It was almost comical. One of the tattooed guys asked if I was selling any used property. He was interested. He even checked out where my parents currently stayed, close to the hospital and subway. I gave him a discount. After the transfer, he quickly had my parents and brother's family sent out. The 4 of them became homeless and tried to seek refuge with me. To avoid making it awkward for property management, I continued having the tattooed guys stand guard at the entrance. They didn't see me for days. Eventually, they returned to their hometown. Jane insisted on divorcing Lucas. In a fit, Lucas accidentally killed her. He was taken by the police. The old couple wailed and begged Jane's family for forgiveness, but Jane's family refused to forgive. In the end, Lucas was sentenced to death. Upon hearing that, the old couple fainted. I didn't care to follow up on what happened next. Maybe if they someday need my financial support, they'll sue me, and I'll just give them what the court orders, like $500. But losing their son, if they can even survive till then, who knows? And so, I embarked on my global travel adventures with Coco. The end.